I was sitting on our patio nursing a scotch when I first suspected my wife Jessica might be cheating. After 6 years of what I thought was a perfect marriage, subtle changes in her behavior set off alarm bells. Late nights at the office, new passwords on her phone, and emotional distance were becoming our new normal. That morning I glimpsed a text on her phone that made my stomach drop. The name was unfamiliar, but the words were unmistakably intimate. My comfortable life in suburban Atlanta was about to shatter completely. Before I continue this painful story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to follow my journey of discovering the devastating truth about my wife's betrayal that changed everything. My name is Clyde, a 34-year-old software engineer living in Atlanta. Jessica and I met at a mutual friend's barbecue 8 years ago. I still remember how she laughed at my terrible jokes and the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her marketing career. After our first conversation, I knew she was special. Our connection was immediate and powerful. We dated for 2 years before I proposed during a weekend trip to Savannah. The wedding was small but perfect, just close friends and family celebrating our love. We moved into our suburban home and settled into a comfortable routine. We agreed to focus on our careers before starting a family, making sure we were financially stable before bringing children into the world. For the first 5 years, our marriage was everything I had hoped for. We communicated openly, shared household responsibilities, and genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Weekend hikes, cooking together, and planning our future filled our time. We had our disagreements like any couple, but we always worked through them respectfully. The first changes were subtle. Jessica started working late at her marketing firm more frequently. At first it was once or twice a week, but soon it became the norm rather than the exception. When she did come home, she was exhausted and distracted. Her appearance began to change too. New stylish outfits replaced her casual wardrobe. She changed her hairstyle, wore more makeup, and intensified her fitness routine. When I complimented these changes, her responses were vague, saying she just wanted to look more professional at work. Then came the password changes. Jessica and I had always known each other's phone passwords, not because we snooped, but because of our open policy. One day, I needed to check an email we had received about our vacation plans, but discovered she had changed her password. When I asked about it, she said it was for security reasons after a data breach at her company. Our intimate life suffered too. The passionate connection we once shared dwindled to occasional, almost obligatory encounters. When I tried to discuss it, Jessica blamed stress and fatigue from work. The most concerning behavior was her phone habits. She was constantly texting, and whenever I entered the room, she would quickly put her phone down or flip it over. Several times she stepped outside or into another room to take calls, something she had never done before. The business trip revelation came unexpectedly. Jessica announced she needed to go to Chicago for a weekend conference. She seemed excited, packing carefully and planning her presentations. The morning after she supposedly left her office, called asking to speak with her about an urgent client matter. Confused, I explained she was at a conference in Chicago. The awkward silence on the other end told me something was wrong. Her colleague apologetically informed me there was no conference scheduled. That evening, I did something I never thought I would do. I checked our shared credit card statements online. What I found made me physically ill. There were charges from local Atlanta hotels on nights she claimed to be working late. Dinner receipts from restaurants across town at times when she told me she was having quick meals at her desk. Bar tabs that seemed excessive for business meetings. When Jessica returned Sunday evening, I tried to discuss my concerns calmly. I asked about the conference and mentioned the call from her office. Her reaction was defensive and immediate. She accused me of checking up on her and invading her privacy. When I mentioned the credit card charges, she had explanations for everything. The hotel charges were for client meetings in conference rooms. The restaurant bills were business dinners she forgot to mention. The bars were networking events. As I questioned the inconsistencies in her story, Jessica became increasingly agitated. She turned the situation around, accusing me of being paranoid and controlling. She reminded me of times I had worked late or forgotten to mention details about my day. By the end of our conversation, I was apologizing to her, doubting my own observations and intuition. Weeks passed with tension lingering between us. I tried to convince myself I was overreacting, that the stress of our careers was causing miscommunication. Then came the pregnancy announcement. We were having dinner at home, a rare evening, when Jessica was not working late. She seemed nervous, but happy pushing food around her plate. Finally, she looked up and said the words that should have brought pure joy. "Clyde, I am pregnant. 8 weeks along." My initial reaction was excitement. We had discussed starting a family, and though the timing was unexpected, the thought of becoming a father filled me with happiness. I embraced her, already imagining our child's future. It was only later that night, as Jessica slept beside me, that I did the mental calculation. Due to our infrequent intimacy over the past months, the timing did not align with her pregnancy timeline. When I gently raised this concern, the next morning Jessica became defensive again, insisting the baby was mine and accusing me of ruining what should be a happy time with my suspicions. I wanted desperately to believe her, to trust that our marriage and future family were real, but the nagging doubt would not subside. The weight of suspicion became unbearable. I found myself distracted at work, unable to focus on coding projects that usually absorbed my attention completely. My sleep suffered, and friends commented on my appearance, asking if everything was okay. I knew I needed definitive answers. I wrestled with my next steps. Invading Jessica's privacy felt wrong, going against the trust that should be fundamental in marriage. Yet living with uncertainty was destroying me from within. I researched signs of infidelity online, finding that Jessica's behavior matched almost every warning sign listed. After a particularly sleepless night, I called my closest friend Daniel. We met for coffee, and I confided everything. Daniel listened without judgment, then offered practical advice. "You need evidence, Clyde, not just for your peace of mind, but to protect yourself legally if your suspicions are correct." His words crystallized my decision. The next day, I purchased small cameras designed for home security. I chose models that were discreet, but high quality, capable of recording clear video and audio. The total cost was significant, but I considered it an investment in truth. I installed the cameras when Jessica was at a supposed day-long client meeting. I placed them strategically in our living room, kitchen, and hallway areas where conversations would likely occur if she brought someone home. I deliberately avoided our bedroom at first, still clinging to some sense of boundary. The technical setup was straightforward, allowing me to access the footage remotely through a secure app. As I finished the installation, I felt conflicted emotions. Part of me hoped to find nothing to discover my suspicions were unfounded. Another part knew that only confirmation of my fears would explain the dramatic changes in my marriage. For the next few days, I maintained a normal facade. Jessica and I coexisted in our increasingly cold home, exchanging pleasantries about work and the pregnancy, while the cameras silently watched. I checked the footage during lunch breaks at work, finding nothing unusual until the 4th day. Jessica had told me she would be working late again. Around 7 in the evening, the app alerted me to movement in our home. I opened the feed to see Jessica entering with a man I did not recognize. Tall, well-dressed, and confident, he moved through our house with the familiarity of someone who had been there before. They settled in our living room with glasses of wine, including Jessica, despite her pregnancy sitting close on the couch I had chosen when we first moved in together. Their body language was intimate, casual touches, and knowing smiles, revealing a comfort level that comes only with time and familiarity. "Andrew, we need to be careful," Jessica said, her voice clear through the camera's microphone. "Clyde has been asking questions." The man Andrew laughed dismissively. "He suspects nothing. You said yourself he believed the conference story completely." My hands shook as I continued watching. Their conversation unfolded like a nightmare. Jessica expressed concern about maintaining the pregnancy deception. "What if he demands a paternity test after the baby is born?" she asked. Andrew pulled her closer. "By then, it will be too late. He will be so attached to the child that he will not want to know the truth. Besides, we can always say the test was wrong." They discussed their relationship timeline, revealing they had been seeing each other for over a year. Andrew was her boss at the marketing firm, explaining her frequent late nights and supposed business trips. The pregnancy, just entering the 2nd trimester, was unplanned but not unwelcome in their view. The deeper betrayal emerged as they discussed finances. Jessica detailed our savings accounts, investment portfolio, and my recent promotion. Andrew suggested using my increased income to prepare for their eventual life together. "He makes good money," Jessica said. "We can build our nest egg before making any decisions about leaving." Their callous planning made me physically ill. I closed the app, unable to watch more that evening, but the damage was done. I knew now that not only was Jessica unfaithful, but she and her lover were actively conspiring to use me financially while planning their future together. The next day, I expanded the camera network to include our bedroom, abandoning any remaining reservations about privacy. What I discovered there delivered the ultimate blow to our marriage. 2 days later, Jessica told me she was attending a dinner with clients. Once she left, I checked the cameras to confirm she had actually gone out. Instead, I watched in real time as she returned home an hour later with Andrew. They went directly to our bedroom, the room Jessica and I had shared for years. What followed was not just physical betrayal, but emotional devastation. Andrew made himself comfortable on my side of the bed using my pillows and belongings without hesitation. Their conversation revealed this was a regular occurrence whenever I worked late or traveled for business. "I love when we can use this bed," Andrew said. "It makes everything more exciting." Jessica laughed. "Clyde has no idea. He actually apologized to me for being suspicious." They mockingly discussed my trust and commitment with Jessica, complaining about aspects of our marriage and my personality. She described me as boring, predictable, and naive, while Andrew reinforced her criticisms with his own judgments of a man he had never properly met. The final indignity came when Jessica's phone rang. She answered it casually, and I realized with shock that I was on the other end. I had called to check when she might be home, remembering my own work call. On camera, I watched as she fabricated a story about the client dinner running long, promising to be home in a couple of hours, all while Andrew silently laughed beside her. The dual reality of speaking to my wife on the phone while watching her lie to me in real time broke something fundamental inside me. The evidence was irrefutable, the betrayal complete. The emotional aftermath was brutal. After confirming the extent of Jessica's deception, I took 3 days off work, claiming illness. In truth, I was physically sick from the stress, barely eating or sleeping. I spent hours reviewing the footage, documenting dates, times, and conversations in a detailed journal. Each entry felt like another nail in the coffin of my marriage. I backed up all the video evidence to multiple secure cloud locations, created password-protected archives, and even stored copies on an external hard drive I kept in my office desk. If this came to legal proceedings, I would be prepared. Online forums for people experiencing infidelity provided both support and practical advice. The stories of others who had survived similar betrayals gave me hope that eventually the acute pain would subside. More importantly, these communities emphasized the importance of legal protection and emotional self-care during divorce. After careful research, I scheduled a consultation with Samantha Winters, a divorce attorney known for her effective but ethical approach to cases involving infidelity. Her office was in downtown Atlanta, in a sleek building that spoke of success and confidence. Samantha was direct from our first handshake. "Tell me everything and do not minimize or exaggerate. I need the complete picture to represent you effectively." For nearly 2 hours, I outlined my marriage, the changes in Jessica's behavior, my investigation, and the evidence I had gathered. I explained the pregnancy situation and my concerns about potential financial exploitation. Samantha took detailed notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions, but mostly listening with professional detachment. When I finished, she leaned forward. "You have done everything right so far, Clyde. The evidence you have gathered is compelling and will be significant in negotiations. Georgia is an equitable distribution state, not a community property state, which works in your favor given these circumstances." She explained that while Georgia does not require fault to be established for divorce, evidence of adultery could impact financial settlements and potentially eliminate alimony obligations. The paternity issue would require DNA testing after birth, but my documentation of Jessica's own admission would likely be sufficient to remove any presumption of paternity. "What about the cameras?" I asked. "Was it legal for me to record in my own home? Georgia is a one-party consent state for audio recordings, and you have the right to place security cameras in your own residence. The evidence should be admissible, especially since it was obtained in response to reasonable suspicion." By the end of our meeting, Samantha had outlined a clear strategy. She prepared initial divorce papers that day, which I signed before leaving her office. She advised me on securing my personal finances, recommending I open new individual accounts and transfer reasonable portions of our joint savings to protect them from potential emptying by Jessica. "When do I confront her?" I asked as our consultation concluded. Give me 48 hours to file these papers and put financial protections in place. Then you can proceed with the confrontation. Remember to stay calm, stick to facts, and record the conversation legally. Those 2 days were surreal. I continued living alongside Jessica, exchanging pleasant conversation about everyday matters while knowing our marriage was effectively over. I opened new bank accounts, moved half our savings, and secured my personal documents and valuables. I also prepared our home office for the confrontation, setting up my laptop with key video evidence ready to play. When the day arrived, I texted Jessica asking her to come directly home after work, saying we needed to discuss baby preparations. She arrived around 6, looking tired but unsuspecting. She found me sitting calmly at the dining table, my laptop open but screen dark. "Hi, honey," she said, setting down her purse. "What baby stuff did you want to talk about?" "I think we need to discuss Andrew first," I replied quietly. The change in her expression was immediate. Shock followed by attempted confusion. "Andrew, my boss. What about him?" Rather than argue, I simply turned my laptop toward her and pressed play. The screen showed her and Andrew entering our home, his arm around her waist, as they laughed about something. Jessica's face drained of color. "What is this? Have you been spying on me?" I remained calm. "I have been finding out the truth." I played additional clips including their discussion about the pregnancy. Jessica initially tried to deny, claiming the videos were edited or misleading. When faced with the extent of my documentation, her strategy shifted. "You drove me to this," she said, tears forming. "You were always working, always distracted. Andrew made me feel special desired." I did not engage with her attempts to shift blame. "The pregnancy," I said flatly. "Is it Andrew's?" After several moments of tense silence, she nodded. "Yes. But we could still make this work, Clyde. Plenty of couples recover from affairs. We could raise this child together as a family. The same way you and Andrew plan to use my income to build your nest egg before leaving me," I asked, playing that particular clip. Jessica's manipulation tactics escalated as she realized the depth of my knowledge. She cycled through tears, anger, blame, and finally threats. "If you divorce me, I will destroy you," she hissed, her demeanor completely transformed. "I will tell everyone you were abusive. I will take everything in the settlement. You will end up with nothing." I slid a folder across the table. "These are divorce papers already filed. Samantha Winters is representing me. She has copies of all the evidence." The mention of Samantha's name registered. Jessica's face fell as she recognized the reputation of the attorney I had retained. Her final attempt at manipulation was the most desperate. "I still love you, Clyde. We can work through this. The baby could still be yours. There is a chance. Think about our history, everything we have built together." I stood up, maintaining my composure despite the emotional turmoil inside. "Pack what you need for tonight. I expect you to make arrangements to move out completely within the week. The locks will be changed tomorrow. Any communication going forward should go through our attorneys." My calm, determined response seemed to finally make the reality clear to Jessica. She knew the marriage was over. She gathered some belongings and left without further argument, presumably to Andrew's place. Once alone, I finally allowed myself to feel the full impact of everything that had happened. I cried for the marriage I thought I had, for the future that would now never exist, and for the innocent child who would be born into such complicated circumstances. The immediate aftermath of Jessica's departure was a mixture of emptiness and relief. Our home, once filled with shared memories, felt hollow, but also cleaner somehow, as if a festering wound had finally been lanced. I spent the first weekend reorganizing spaces, removing photos, and reclaiming rooms that had been tainted by their betrayal. I decided to tell close friends and family a simplified version of the truth, rather than let Jessica control the narrative. My parents were supportive but heartbroken. Jessica's parents, with whom I had always had a good relationship, were devastated and ashamed of their daughter's actions. They called to apologize, emphasizing that they still cared for me despite the ending marriage. At work, I shared only the basic facts with my team leader to explain my recent distraction and request flexibility for upcoming legal appointments. The support I received was overwhelming. Colleagues covered projects when needed, and my boss approved remote workdays to accommodate court appearances. The legal proceedings moved forward efficiently under Samantha's guidance. Jessica hired an attorney known for aggressive tactics, but the evidence I had gathered significantly weakened their position. In one particularly effective move, Samantha presented video of Jessica discussing financial exploitation plans during mediation, effectively ending any attempts to seek alimony or excessive property division. Jessica and Andrew made desperate attempts to salvage their reputations, claiming their relationship began only after our marriage was already failing. These narratives gained little traction once the timeline evidence was presented. Their workplace affair also had professional consequences, with Andrew facing an ethics review for having a relationship with a direct report. The paternity issue was resolved through prenatal DNA testing, confirming Andrew as the biological father and legally releasing me from any parental obligations. This was a mixed blessing, removing financial responsibility, but also eliminating any relationship with the child I had briefly believed would be mine. The final courtroom appearance was brief but significant. Faced with overwhelming evidence and advised by her increasingly frustrated attorney Jessica, finally admitted to the affair, the paternity deception, and the financial manipulation plans. The judge's ruling was decisively in my favor, granting a clean break with equitable distribution, heavily weighted toward me due to the documented misconduct. As the legalities concluded, I began focusing on healing. The house that had once represented our future together now felt like a memorial to betrayal. I listed it for sale, fortunately, during a strong market period. The equity provided a fresh financial start, allowing me to purchase a modern apartment in a vibrant neighborhood closer to downtown. The new space became my personal project. I selected furniture that reflected my individual taste rather than compromised preferences. I hung art that spoke to me, arranged rooms for functionality and comfort, and created an environment that supported my recovery rather than reminding me of loss. I reconnected with hobbies that had faded during my marriage. Weekend hiking trips with a local outdoor group introduced me to new friends who knew nothing of my past. I resumed playing guitar, finding solace in music during quiet evenings. My neglected passion for photography reawakened, giving me reasons to explore my city with fresh eyes. The emotional healing was slower but steady. At Daniel's suggestion, I began seeing a therapist specializing in betrayal trauma. Dr. Keller helped me process the complex emotions without becoming bitter or distrustful. Our sessions focused on identifying relationship patterns, recognizing red flags I had missed, and rebuilding my sense of self-worth. 6 months after Discovery Day, news reached me through mutual friends that Jessica and Andrew's relationship was faltering. The stress of the pregnancy, professional consequences, and public embarrassment had created cracks in their connection. While this information might once have brought satisfaction, I found myself simply hoping they would make better choices for the sake of their child. My own life was steadily improving. A major project I had led at work attracted industry attention, resulting in a promotion offer that included relocation to our company's Seattle office. The opportunity for advancement coincided perfectly with my need for a complete fresh start. Around this time, I cautiously accepted a dinner invitation from Kate, a project manager from another department who had provided unexpected support during the divorce process. Our first date was refreshingly honest, both of us sharing past relationship experiences and current boundaries. While I was not ready for serious commitment, the evening reminded me that genuine connections were still possible. The 1-year anniversary of discovering Jessica's betrayal arrived as I was preparing for my move to Seattle. The date might have triggered renewed pain, but instead became an opportunity for reflection on how far I had come. Sitting on the balcony of my almost packed apartment, I reviewed the journal I had kept throughout the process, recognizing my growth with each entry. The most important lessons were clear. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Boundaries exist to protect, not to isolate. Self-respect must precede any healthy relationship. Betrayal reveals character, both in those who commit it and those who respond to it. My new life was not perfect, but it was authentically mine. The promotion provided financial security and exciting professional challenges. My refreshed social circle included people who knew and valued the person I had become through adversity. The move to Seattle represented not an escape, but an evolution. I no longer defined myself by Jessica's betrayal or even by our failed marriage. That chapter had closed, painful but instructional. The future remained unwritten, full of possibilities. I was finally ready to explore without the weight of bitterness or distrust. For those of you going through similar situations, remember that surviving betrayal is not just about enduring pain, but about reclaiming your narrative. Have you ever had to completely rebuild your life after a devastating betrayal? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life experiences, and share this video with someone who might need to know they are not alone in their struggles. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most authentic beginnings.